Thank you for joining us for Finding God in Video Games Rewind. And in this week's episode, we're going to take a look back at The Sims. I'm going to make a very painful admission here. There's a period of time in my life in which I was a Sims player. At first glance, I wasn't really sure if the idea of cleaning virtual dishes and managing the bathroom needs of a grown virtual adult was going to translate into a relaxing use of my leisure time, but I will confess there was a certain amount of enjoyment in engaging in the creative process of making a virtual version of myself and my friends, and then placing them into a virtual world that I was only loosely in control of. I made a character that kind of resembled me, reflected many aspects of my real-world personality, and shared many of my same interests. Then I dropped them into a world that my avatar and I would co-create together, starting in a very small, modest home with a handful of necessities that my character's current bank account could support. And no sooner did the magic begin than it promptly turned into an unimaginable nightmare. See, my sim lacked almost all of the basic functionality that I possessed, even though it was the spitting image of me visually. I encouraged my sim to cook dinner, and he burned down the kitchen. I reminded my sim to use the bathroom, but he would rather keep talking to his neighbor to the detriment of his current pair of pants. I informed my sim that it was time to go to work, but he would rather watch TV and proceeded to lose his job. I don't think he fully appreciated how hard astronaut jobs are to find. I would guide him to read books to further develop his skills in cooking and woodworking, but unless he had had enough fun first, he would pout and go swimming instead. I continually had his best interest in mind, and I understood what would be his optimal path in this virtual life, but his progress would ultimately depend on his mood, or if he got enough sleep the night before, or if something bright and shiny didn't distract him along the way. Now, I will be very honest here and admit that I finally reached a point of frustration with my slacking doppelganger. I made the decision to do what would eliminate the challenges that he was having navigating his life. I punched in a cheat code, and that provided unlimited resources for him to offset those areas that were lacking. My filthy sim no longer lived in a disgusting house because I put a robot maid in the house that resolved all of those issues as soon as they started. I supplied this house with the very best in entertainment. I provided unlimited money, the most comfortable furniture, mentally stimulating paintings. It was a mansion that rivaled anything that the lifestyles of rich and famous could put together. There were topiaries in the shape of dolphins, leading to massive fountains, pointing the way to an Olympic-sized pool. And if there was a neighbor giving them a hard time, I could just pick them up and drop them in the pool and take all the ladders out so they couldn't climb out. I know, but they're not real. I removed all of his obstacles, and then I realized that the actual game itself kind of completely lost all purpose. By removing the challenges that my sim faced and supplying him with an endless abundance without obstacles, I effectively ended his growth. And shortly thereafter, I gave up on playing the game and never looked back, because a game without a challenge or a sense of purpose is, well, it's really just an interactive screensaver. Now, I'm going to tie some of these loose threads together here, because many times I think that we look up at God and wonder why He, in all of His infinite power and endless substance, doesn't simply enter some cheat codes into our lives and pay off all of our bills with a lottery win, clean our homes with the push of an easy button, or undo the damage that we or others have done to our lives with His magic eraser. And it would be easy for us to mistake His lack of immediate involvement with lack of caring or interest in our predicaments. We couldn't be further from the truth. So let's start at the very beginning, in a process that mimicked my creation of my sim. In Genesis 1, God created us in His image and likeness, giving us a basic set of skills and a set of desires that resembled His very own character. He built a perfect environment, and He gave Adam his very first job as a gardener and animal caretaker. He gave us life, provision, responsibility, and a sense of purpose. But He also made the decision to give us autonomy. And in Genesis 2, He gave us the power to make a decision that would change the trajectory of our entire planet forever. He gave us free will to make a decision with two basic outcomes that allowed us to make the call. And while we all know how that decision ultimately went, badly. The reality is God knows that it is only through our choices, challenges, and obstacles that we will grow and achieve our destinies. To bypass the valley of the shadow of death would rob us of the experience of being comforted by his rod and his staff. Now, would it be easier? Of course it would. But as my sim in the game found out, it is the act of a loving benefactor that allowed him to experience a virtual life, complete with all of the inherent flaws of a world with deadlines, alarm clocks, hygiene needs, relationship issues, yes, even jobs and household chores. Because all of these were part of the beauty of the experience that was part of the tapestry of his existence. So let's not despise the small beginnings that we have in life, or allow the monotony of our lives and the challenges that we face cause us to lose faith in our Creator. God is developing our lives along a road that may seem inconsequential or unnecessarily challenging at the moment. And our present kitchen fire may seem all too real at the moment. But God has eternity in perspective. And he sees more than just this moment and smells more than just the burned drapes. He sees us through to our end game. And he has infinite patience as we pass through our lives and into his perfect plan for us.